Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my channel and another STAMPtember limited edition exclusive set. Today's collaboration is with AALL Create, and like always, I will have a link to their product line because I know a lot of you are not familiar with AALL Create, and they have some truly unique stamps and products. I really like their style, and yeah, this is the Christmas Magic set, and it is quirky and different and a lot of fun. So, I took several images from the set and I'm stamping them onto some distressed watercolor paper with Simon's black ink, just like so. And these critters, I can't even. I love them. I love them. Like, again, this brand, very quirky. Their little people characters are also like this. They're fun. They're fun. So, for watercoloring, this is a Tim Holtz Distress watercolor palette, like the little plastic palette, and I put drops of Distress Reinker in it. I did this years ago. I honestly don't remember when, and I honestly don't remember, I think I might have done it like a live or an Instagram. I don't know. I honestly don't know when I did this. And it was under a bunch of things. I've shown in many, many videos, like just watercoloring with Distress Reinkers. It works. Pretty much any water reactive ink, you can watercolor with the reinkers. The thing to keep in mind with reinkers is they are very concentrated. They are meant to re-ink your ink pads. So they have the, additives in them to keep them from drying out. Like, why I stress that is you need to just make sure you're using like water with them. Like, if you're taking a mostly dry brush and painting a reinker, you're going to get, gorgeous saturated color. But do not be surprised if it never dries or just takes literally ages to dry. Because they're reinkers, these are not liquid watercolors. So I just want to stress that because I've actually had that happen to me where I was like, I wanted the color as intense as possible and did a whole background using reinkers. And then it never dried. Like, literally never dried. So, this little palette has like half, because there's like 72 colors altogether in Distress, and one of these palettes holds 36 colors. And yeah, I just put a few drops, like probably like 2 or 3 drops into this little palette, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. And then all I'm doing is picking up the color with my little water brush. You could also use just a paintbrush dipped in water, either one. And the reason I had done that all those years ago was this way I can have, a whole bunch of colors easily accessible instead of having like 36 bottles sitting in front of me or ink pads or whatever. It's a convenience thing. And why I didn't do a second one, the funny thing, when I found, like, because again, I was moving things around, I found the palette, and then there's an empty palette right below it. And I was like, oh, I did get a second one with the intentions of doing all the colors, Yeah. Yeah. I'll get to it eventually because I really like watercoloring with distress reinkers. I like watercoloring with all water reactive inks and watercolors and watercolor pencils. And you guys, if you've watched any of my content, yeah, I have fun. So I have super sped this up. Obviously, I don't color this quickly. The colors, I've loosely followed the packaging for the die set that is part of the bundle for this STAMPtember collab. That's another thing I really like with AALL Create, and a few other brands do this as well, is with their packaging or with their product listing, they'll have the stamp images and they'll be already colored. And why I like that is a lot of times it just gives me inspiration. And with something like this, specifically this brand, they have a way with color that I would not think of. Like, I would not think to color like this or to use these sorts of colors. So, again, I was loosely following it. I didn't follow it exact, but Like this dog, I never in a million years would have thought of putting like the spots on him like I ended up doing, but I was like, I noticed it on the packaging and I was like, huh, that's fun. Why not? Why not? And same with the cat. I would never have thought to like paint the cat blue, but I saw it on the packaging and I was like, that's fun. That's fun. I'm here for this. Like, let's be silly. These images are silly and let's do silly colors and let's just have fun with it. And I did. Like seriously. I had so much fun coloring these, whatever coloring medium. I'd also thought about stamping them, like coloring them with alcohol markers because, again, for that intense color, just have fun with it. I need more hours in the day, need more days in the week, so I can just play. But still, this was a lot of fun. And off camera, like I always do when I'm watercoloring, but specifically, especially when using a water brush, but always when I'm watercoloring, I have a cloth. Paper towel works too, to wipe my brush in between colors. Also, when working with a little water brush, it helps because sometimes water brushes get a little finicky. That happened this time, and it was all good though. So once I was done watercoloring everything, I had die cut it, set that all aside. For my background, I'm using more of the distress watercolor paper. And I pulled out this oldie but goodie background. This is the Outline Merry Christmas background. This is one of the older, still on red rubber stamps from Simon Says Stamp. As of doing this voiceover, this stamp is still available. I do think it's being discontinued. I think Simon Says Stamp is discontinuing all of their red rubber backgrounds, and just some of them they're switching over to clear and some they're just discontinuing completely. So honestly, any kind of background would work. I just liked the open space on this one, and because I want to add like sprays and things. So what I had done was used my anti-static powder tool on the watercolor paper, and then I'd inked up the stamp with clear embossing ink, pressed the watercolor paper in it, coated it with detail white embossing powder, and then melting with my heat tool. And more often than not, you can't even see it when I'm melting. This time, the light just happened to pick it up so you could actually see the embossing powder melt, which is always so satisfying. And with especially white on white, and clear on like white, it's sometimes hard to see. And this is what I always say, how I'll tilt, whatever I'm melting in the light, because whatever is shiny, and smooth, it's melted. But wherever it's grainy, it hasn't been melted yet. So it's like I tilt it in the lights, find those spots that I missed, melt them with my heat tool, and then we're good. So I'd melted both those backgrounds. I laid out my flour sack cloth just to kind of absorb some of the excess. And then I sprayed these with water and then gave them a couple spritz with tumbled glass distress spray stain. And then I was like, it needs something. So I pulled out some Wonderland Distress Mica Stain, which has sparkle and fabulousness. At the end of the video, I'll use my flashlight so you guys can see the sparkle because it doesn't show up, until I really shine the light on it, but it is sparkly. And then I let it dry. And after it was dry, I trimmed these down a bit to about 4 by 5.25 inches. And I also used, yet again, the Postage Rectangles wafer die set because I'm obsessed with it. So I tore the edges of these backgrounds that I had sprayed just to, again, texture, just because. And I pulled out some black and white striped paper from my stash. This specific black and white striped paper is no longer available. I am very sad about it. I still have an entire pack of it. So it'll still make an appearance here and there. But any black and white stripe, or you could use a stencil on white paper, whatever works. Or a stamp, like a stripe stamp. Anyway, I just added that to the background. And that was the A2 Postage Rectangles that I die cut from Simon's Greenleaf cardstock. So I got all that adhered. The Sentiment is another oldie but goodie. This is the Wishing You Joy wafer die, and I die cut just the words. I didn't use the outline. And I die cut them from black cardstock. And off camera, I just stacked 2 layers. Usually I do 3, but as usual lately, I don't have any extra time. I need more time. I'm behind. Anyway, I stacked 2 layers together, and I adhered all my elements to the backgrounds just with some liquid glue, and then my sentiments, and then I stacked those little dots for the eyes, and then I'm gonna add a bunch of splatter, just cause. Usually I leave the sentiments off, before when I add splatter. But this time I was just, I was feeling it. Again, these are like whimsical and sort of just different and messy and yeah. Yeah. So put them right into my spot box. Put some white gouache on my palette, thinned it out with a bit of water, and then did a good amount of splatter. And then I'm going to do black splatter on these as well, because why not? Why not? So after I added the white splatter, cleaned off my brush, turned my palette around a little bit, and then I'll add the black gouache, which, yeah, love the stuff. You just got the, with specifically like this. This is the Altenew black gouache. This stuff is insanely pigmented, as you can see, because my little palette is stained from that gouache. So just always keep that in mind. And I'm sure all sorts of other things I have stained with it, because I make an absolute mess. Even with the splat box, I get it everywhere, and I honestly don't care. I had it all over my hands. Like, it was everywhere this time. I was having a day when I was making these. But I was also having fun, and that's all that matters. So I added a good amount of black splatter to these as well. And then set them aside to dry, like clean off my brush, etc. Set those aside to dry, and while they're drying, my card bases are top folding A2 white note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I'm going to use that little Xmas sentiment from the set. And to like complete the phrase, I pulled out another oldie but goodie set. This is the Simple Holiday Greetings. And it's got the one stamp says Merry and Bright. And normally I would just cut the stamp apart for what I want to use. But the way that stamp is, the word, like there's a good amount of space in between everything. So I just stuck the stamp to an acrylic block and inked up just the word Merry with the black ink. And then stamped that onto the insides of these cards. And then I can adhere the little Xmas with liquid glue. And that'll finish off the insides. Just cute. So after I did that, I had adhered the card fronts to the card base. And as my final embellishment, I'm using some diamond stickles because they needed some more glitter. The thing to remember with products like stickles, glossy accents, like any sort of liquid product like this that is literally liquid and takes a bit to dry, it can and will reactivate what you applied over if it is something that's water reactive, like Distress Inks. So always keep that in the back of your mind. I applied it really thin, and I was fine if it did. There are just times if you apply something that's like really thick, like you really glop on, because stickles can be dimensional if you apply it in thicker amounts. Same with glossy accents, etc. And the thicker you apply it, the longer it's going to take to dry, and the longer it has to start absorbing. So it can literally sort like pull up and absorb, but it can also like move things around a bit. So it's just something to keep in mind. I wasn't worried about it with this because 1, I applied it really thin, and 2, I did a messy watercolor, was having fun with it. But it's just one of those things to keep in mind when you're applying it, that it can change things. So I applied it really thin so it dried fairly quickly and we're good to go. And yeah, that was my holiday cards with these. I love that dog. He reminds me of my old dog. Love him. Just, losing his mind over that bell. And just the style of it all. The cat too. I think he's just adorable. They're having so much fun. And there's glitter and splatter and all good things. So, and there's the sparkle with my flashlight. So the background is sparkly. The stickles add sparkle. And then we've got just the riot of colors going on. So, anywho, as always, I appreciate all of you hanging out with me. Links to all the things I used are in the description box below the video. Thumbs upping and commenting, also very much appreciated. I appreciate all that support. And I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!